As a disclaimer, going into this video, I was already not a fan of the Gen 2 games. There are a lot of small things about Johto's gameplay, as well as its design, that prevent me from enjoying the wonderful story. This video is not to air out my negative opinions about the second generation specifically, but instead to sort of discuss something that I really disagree with. As of this recording, I've played Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal many times, but I've only played Heart Gold once all the way up to the 8th gym, which was very recently. I sort of speedran this game for about 3 hours in a Discord call with Darian, where the two of us looked at the game to try and figure out, one, if emulation worked, we'll come back to this, and two, if there was anything about this game that warranted its extravagant online price. I would not, and I repeat, would not buy any Pokemon game for $150, but this one game being the most expensive really baffles me. So, to be fair, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are great games, especially compared to the mess that is Gold and Silver. These games bring a lot of the things that make the next two generations of Pokemon great, that being abilities and the physical special split. However, those aren't the only issues that I have with the second generation. Before I get ahead of myself, let's expose my own bias. Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald are by far my favorite Pokemon games, and the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire games are by far my favorite remakes. However, this is before Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl has come out, so I have no clue how my opinions might change. The biggest pitfalls for the third generation aren't as apparent to me, and perhaps that'll be its own video. However, I do know that Gen 3 isn't perfect, and if I had to pick out quick criticisms that actually hold weight, I'd say Gen 3's movesets aren't that great. This issue is spread throughout the first 6 generations, but it hinders the original Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald extremely. Another thing I don't like about Gen 3 is how Emerald is the definitive version, and yet the remakes don't pull from that. Again, I could easily just make the next video about Gen 3 if I wanted to, so I want to stop here and talk about Heart Gold. So why are some Pokemon games ridiculously expensive? A lot of people state online that Pokemon games stopped being produced fairly early in their lifespan, which I don't really get as an explanation. These games sold ridiculously well, especially since the games that we're talking about here were on the DS. Now, I know a lot of my friends watching this owns the Game Boy Advance, DS, and 3DS, and most likely the number one reason why was to play Pokemon. It was, up until the latest generation, an exclusive Nintendo title that also got pushed to being the handheld video game. Pokemon thrived in the handheld space, and still technically does, with the Switch being the best of both worlds. Since Game Boy Advance and DS aren't emulated on the Switch, it is understandable that the physical copies are still worth a lot, but even then, these are some of the most popular games to come out on the DS. To get into this just a little bit further, there are probably tons of copies of Heart Gold in circulation right now around the world because it sold so high. I doubt that there is a high demand due to the fact that there is some shortage on Heart Gold's existence. The other most talked about explanation I found, and the reason why I decided to make this video, is the nostalgia factor. Now, if you wanted to play Pokemon Emerald or Pokemon Fire Red on Game Boy, there's a very quick and easy way to do so. Either pick up your phone or your personal computer and install a Game Boy with the games. It is super easy, runs perfect on all devices, and doesn't take up much space. Not only that, but you can also mod the games easily using a randomizer, enabling brand new experiences with no damage done to the base game. Now, if you wanted to do that for Platinum and the Black and White games, you can easily do it on your own personal computer, but Heart Gold of all games has an interesting barrier to entry. While all the other DS titles will work with a bit of effort, due to a compatibility issue, Heart Gold and Soul Silver can crash or suffer from graphical issues, making them a lot harder to emulate. It is possible to play through the whole game in like 4-ish hours without crashing once with the right settings and a cheat code to prevent particular errors, but it won't come out nearly as clean as the hard copy version. Now, if that were the reason why the games were so expensive, I'd understand, but that's just not the case. Again, every Gen 1 to 5 Pokemon game is able to be emulated. When I was initially charged with this question, I thought it had to be because of some kind of add-on or feature not found in any other game. And truth is, these are still the only Pokemon games that let you visit 2 regions. This is also one of the few games with a Battle Frontier, which was introduced in Gen 3, along with the fact that Pokemon follow you around, you can play with the original Game Boy Color soundtrack, and alongside other quality of life changes, it makes sense that the answer would be people are nostalgic for a unique and expansive Pokemon experience. But that's where my own experiences with the series come into play. It took me quite some time to arrive at this conclusion, but the Gen 2 games are utter messes, from one of its two legendaries being shoehorned in, to it being designed around Gen 1 as its base. The second generation is far from the Pokemon experiences that were to follow. If Gen 1 was the house foundation per se of the Pokemon franchise, then all Gen 2 is the frame being completed. I do recognize that at a time this could have been designed as the second and final game in the series, but that doesn't make up for some of the weird choices. For one, the hyped and beloved trip to Kanto in Gold and Silver is just going to all the gyms. It is a post game, but at times it feels like they took things out of Kanto to make it accessible within the Johto games. As I was writing this, I glanced through a playthrough, and the typical post game for Heart Gold and Soul Silver is pretty cool. There is definitely a lot of content there. I'm sure that they also improved upon Kanto, but until I get a proper playthrough going that deep, I can't say anything about that. But what I can say is that is the definitive experience for Gold, Silver, and Crystal versions. Again, I do recognize that these games came out quite some time ago, but one of the things that I could critique about these early generations of Pokemon is that because of those limitations, the story for Kanto and Johto to begin with wasn't that deep. Johto mostly played off of what was established in Kanto, going so far as to share Team Rocket as the antagonist. Now again, as a sequel, this is a pretty good game. However, because early Pokemon was able to focus on the creatures that made its world so awesome, the only true things that set Johto apart from Kanto are its traditional Japanese themes and its own unique lore surrounding its legendary Pokemon. Something else that I just never liked about Johto is how a lot of its quote-unquote new Pokemon aren't available until the post-game. Heart Gold and Soul Silver still has these issues, but they are now exaggerated a lot more as a lot of the new Gen 4 evolutions to Pokemon like Togetic and Rhydon aren't available until the post-game either. What I am trying to get at here is that teams in the second generation of Pokemon and team building aren't that great. If you want to use Pokemon like Larvitar and Houndour in a casual playthrough, you just can't do that until you get to Kanto. And when you do catch them, well guess what? You're training them to get all the way up to level 50, 60 to match the rest of your party. Now you might say, but there's the new Safari Zone, and I would say that's a load of crap. Not only does the new Safari Zone take a good while to get set up, but it also has this mechanic of personal customization, where you need to customize the Safari Zone just to get some encounters. And if you want fancier encounters, you're going to have to wait upwards to 70 days. If you want to have new experiences in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, you just might as well play it randomized only. There is almost no potential in a casual replay of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, because a lot of the things that you might want to try and do just don't exist. If you want to do, for example, a Nuzlocke, and you want new and unique encounters, well guess what? You're going to hit the same ceiling throughout the entire game every time, because a lot of these Pokemon that you might want to try in a Nuzlocke, they're just gone to post-game. Now, in the future, we've had Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire do this in their post-game, but the problem here is the Pokemon that you get in ORAS's post-game aren't from Hoenn. They're from other regions. That is an acceptable way to gate Pokemon. Now, you might say, well, if you're doing a Nuzlocke of Heart Gold and Soul Silver, then you've got to do the Kanto side. And I agree, it would make a more interesting gauntlet. But are you seriously telling me that it is worth picking up Pokemon that late into the game after you've already beaten an Elite Four? If Heart Gold and Soul Silver had Kanto included before you even take on the Elite Four, then sure, that'd be cool. But I have to stress, Kanto is post-game. Alright, let's get back on track here. So, I really don't understand why they tried and make every single gym have its own puzzle. While Gen 2 did have personality embedded into its gyms, the remakes try really hard to make sure that you aren't just going into the gym and getting badges, even if that means they have to make the puzzles more gimmick based rather than challenging. Let me provide two examples. In Morty's gym in Gold and Silver, you had to find specific tiles that let you continue moving forwards. If you stepped on the wrong tile, you get warped back to the beginning. It's simple enough. They keep that same energy with the Heart Gold and Soul Silver version, but took out the challenge entirely. If you beat a trainer and get warped back, you can simply walk past them without interacting with the puzzle at all. You don't even have to memorize a path, as the path is already provided, and they simply reduced vision to try and trick you into walking off that already set path. Price's gym also makes no sense whatsoever. Instead of doing an ice puzzle, which, let's be honest, is always a bit difficult, you have to push ice blocks in such a way that you can just slide forwards. Now, on paper, that sounds difficult, but there are only 2 ice blocks for each section, and you're practically just pushing them together every single time. It is quite literally a conveyor belt with more steps. That's not to mention 2 other gyms, which I'm just going to throw in because it's on my mind. Whitney's gym has like a chutes and ladders style thing where you're just walking up and down stairs, but there really is no trick to it. And it's the same thing with Chuck's. He's just like training in a traditional like waterfall fashion, and you just have to flip the valve and then you have access to him. It's basically the same thing as strength and how you use strength to just push to him, except strength at least required you to have a gym badge. That's not to say that all of the gyms were bad. I think that Claire's puzzle was actually really cool and interesting, as you had to not only slide platforms around, but also rotate them within a limited space, meaning you had to not only learn a mechanic, but also think about its application. Wow, that's all there is to it. Most puzzles in Pokemon can follow that formula, and if you can simply remember after doing it a few times, that doesn't necessarily make it a bad puzzle. What makes Morty and Price's gym puzzles so bad is that there is no challenge to them. They are simply decorations. You are not being forced to think about how you beat them. You just sort of walk through. Another thing that I was really looking forward to in Heart Gold, but was sadly disappointed by, are the Rocket Executives. It's my fault, really. I always thought that these games had more differences in them than they actually do. They simply reskinned, named, and made their identities a bit more defined. Petrol, for example, is now Rocket's Master of the Skies, but when you battle him at the height of the Rocket story, he pulls about 5 coughing out and then throws a wheezing on top of that, just like in Gold and Silver. To be fair, it helps solidify his identity as a mischievous, spy-like character who relies on the coughing and wheezing's ability to self-destruct when in danger. I just wish that the game changed enough to support a changing character. Instead, he's just rehashing the executives from the original game with a bit more personality. It's great, but nothing memorable or special in this case. Now, I wrote here as a note to talk about Matt. Now, Matt in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire compared to Ruby and Sapphire is a completely different character. Not only did the admins in those games get changed, but their teams also changed, sort of. Now, Matt had a legitimate team back in the original game, but not only is his team now mostly just a Sharpedo, but he also has different battles than he did in the original game. That's what I would look for when you take characters and you change them. You also will change how they function. Archie and Maxie in ORAS even changed up a bit. And because of Mega Evolution, they had an even bigger push towards being different than their original versions. Now, that's not to say that because ORAS did it like a decade later, that Heart Gold and Soul Silver is just bad. But what I'm saying is that option was still available back when they decided to fully flesh out these characters back in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Now, despite what I'm saying, I still think, as always, that the story of Johto is awesome. The region is full of the Japanese tradition, and they did a great job of updating the game. For example, the Kimono Girls have a much bigger role to play in the story. Now, in addition to being a gauntlet run of EV trainers, they are also the final challenge that allows you to climb the bell tower and catch Ho-Oh. They're also dispersed throughout the game, making you think that, oh, there's like one chick and she's just walking around the region. But no, they all introduce themselves to you in some form or way, and they sort of lead into, hey, look out for these kimono girls, they're going to be important. And I was actually kind of surprised that Ho-Oh was pushed so far back, because in Gold and Silver, I'm pretty sure as soon as you find a way to do it, you can just go and catch Ho-Oh midway through the game. And not only do they push this to later in the game, they wait until you have all 8 badges to do it, which makes it a very fitting way to end the main story. Johto's legendary Pokemon in general have always held a very mythical and storybook theme. They aren't the central focus of the game like it is in future entries. Instead, they're like the Gen 1 games, where they hold a bit more mystique, because they are all basically just myths or stories, all on their own, without worrying necessarily about what's going on in Pokemon. Now, I know that's going to sound a bit weird considering the relationship between Team Rocket and some of the legendaries in the first game, but in case you haven't noticed, in the second game, there's no plot or side story revolving around the bad guys and the legendary Pokemon. However, after saying all of that, I have to admit that there is one Pokemon from Johto that I just absolutely cannot stand. Lugia is one of the 2 box art legendaries of the Johto region, and if you ever picked up Pokemon Silver or Soul Silver growing up, it's probably your favorite of the 2. I too used to like Lugia until I took the time to learn more about it. We're going to put aside its origin in the real world and start with the fact that it was a late addition to the games. By this I mean Lugia debuted in the anime as Pokemon X. Lugia was created for the second Pokemon movie exclusively, and then at some point was decided to be put into the games. That alone is not really a massive sin or anything, but that's still just the beginning. Despite being the Guardian of the Sea, it is a psychic flying type Pokemon. It was said in an interview that they did this in order to make it seem more powerful or to leave more of an impression, but then why not make it a psychic water Pokemon? In case you want to check real quick, Ho-Oh was already a fire flying type. Being based off of the Phoenix and being the Guardian of the Skies, this typing combination just makes sense. So why did they think that Psychic was more fitting for the Pokemon that is supposed to be Guardian of the Seas and has the power to bring about great storms? Also, as a side note, the closer I got to this part of the video, the harder it started to rain and thunder here where I'm living. Lugia, please don't hurt me. So anyways, what makes this even funnier is that Ho-Oh is the Guardian of the Skies, but Lugia is in charge of the legendary birds, being Moltres, Articuno, and Zapdos. Now, this does not have to be a big deal. Simply being a guardian of something doesn't mean you have to be all in on the themes, but this just feels off, dare I say rushed. Now, Ho-Oh was probably always intended to be in the first 2 generations of Pokemon, and the story of the legendary beasts and how they came about is cool. It fits because Ho-Oh, being a phoenix, used its power to revive dead Pokemon. But Lugia just does not fit in the same way. This has made it one of my least favorite Pokemon. And obviously, they will learn from this because now having 2 box art legends is the trend, and from then on out, these Pokemon were designed as a duo rather than just being standalone legends. Ho-Oh and Lugia do seem to sort of be, opposites, but thematically, you got Kyogre, Groudon, Dialga, Palkia. Do I even have to go on? These Pokemon are clear opposites, and you can really tell that they were, 1, embedded into the region as a main attraction, and 2, they just oppose each other thematically. I can accept at the end of the day that this was a point of growth for the franchise. As I stated in my first video, Pokemon is a franchise that builds on itself year after year, and what makes it so amazing is its dedication to learning from its past. For that reason, I don't want this video to come off as more than me stating that these games are no different than the other entries. There is nothing that I can find that makes them rare or unique to the point that they are worth being the most expensive Pokemon game on the market. The Gen 5 games are easily the best the DS era of Pokemon has to offer, yet despite this, the nostalgia for Johto and what its unique experiences offer made it the most expensive game on the market. To me, that's the takeaway. Gen 2 has the same kind of flaws as the rest of early Pokemon, but despite this, people are still willing to play them because they are still great Pokemon games. Even if someone like me believes that they have the most flaws out of any Pokemon game, that doesn't stop me from playing them either, and it shouldn't stop you from enjoying them. If you liked anything I had to say in this video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. If you have anything interesting to bring up, I'd be happy to discuss anything related to Pokemon in the comments. With all that said, thank you very much for watching, and remember, don't call me, please text me instead, and I'll see you next time.